In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the little exercise at the beginning of Chapter 4. This will be your first CAD exercise that you've got in the book. Now, I'm just going to be drawing this little object starting at point 2, 2, following all of the different dimensions. Now, we're going to be using all different types of entry. So mostly we're going to be using direct entry, which is the most common one that we use. We're going to start with an absolute coordinate. We're going to be using some polar coordinates where we come up here and have to type in angles. And we're also up here, we're going to be using some relative coordinates to get from this point relative to that point. We need to get down here. There's two ways that I'm going to draw this. The first way is the way that the book encourages you to draw it is actually starting at point 2, 2, make your way over and around, but we're missing a dimension for this line. So then we'll come back to the start point and move our way up until we get up to that missing line, and then we can just snap to the end point here. I'm going to do it once that way, and then if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can fast forward or go on to the later part of this video where I'm actually going to start it at this point and just work my way backwards. It's a lot more of a challenge doing it this way because you're going to have to put some thought into getting some of these angles, but we'll talk about supplementary angles and opposite angles as we do that. So I'm going to get started just the way the book asked me to. It says to get started on a new drawing, so I'll click over here, start a drawing from scratch. That's the AutoCAD.dwt is what it's defaulting to. I'm going to turn off my grid, and I'm going to get started on this drawing. We're not going to create any layers. We're just going to draw on layer 0. So I'm going to start the line command. It says to start it at 2, 2. So I've got my start point. For these straight lines, I would really recommend turning on your ortho, especially if you're new to drawing in CAD. It's a nice way to kind of lock yourself into those perfectly horizontal and vertical lines. You can also turn on your polar if you'd like. I'm going to turn on my ortho, which is an F8. And then I'll come over here and just start following the dimensions. So 0.50 here, pull it up, 0.875, pull it to the right, 0.75, pull it down, 0.875, over 0.375, up 0.625, and you notice it's kind of small in the corner over here. If you want to make it bigger, I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger. I'm going to use the IntelliMouse wheel, the little wheel on your mouse, and I'm just going to roll it up. And that's making this, and I'm pushing it down to pan it over to the side, but that way it's a little bit bigger. I can see what I'm doing here. Now I'm going to type in my 1.50. I'm going to come back down the same distance, 0.625. Come back over 1.375. I'm going to come up 0.5. Now this is where we get our first angle here. So I'm going to type in my distance as 0.75. I'm going to press tab to get into the angle. And my angle on this one is 35 degrees. So I'm just going to type in 35. And I've got that angle. My next angle is 35 degrees, but it's coming from 180. So if you remember, a couple of things to remember here is your eastern horizon. So as long as I keep my mouse above this horizon level, if you consider this the vertex of the angle, as long as I am above the eastern horizon, I'll be able to draw this angle going straight up. It says that it's 35 degrees from this way up, but with that being the case, if it's 35 degrees from 180, I would need to subtract that from 180. So 180 minus 35 is 145. Oh, hold on, let's type in the distance, 0.75 at an angle of 145. Be sure and keep your mouse above the horizon though when you're doing that one, or it would draw it down. That's a 150. Now the next one has a distance of 1 and an angle of 135. Next I'm going to come over 0.5 and then 1, 1.25, 0.50, 1, up, 0.50. And now we're to that tricky part here. I need to type in a relative coordinate because it doesn't give me the angle. So don't forget, you need to put in the @ symbol, and then we can type in x, comma, y. So we're going to be traveling negative, so to the left, which would be the negative direction, 0.625, comma, negative on the y, 0.25. So relative to where I am, I'm going to go negative on the x, or to the left, and negative on the y, or down. Now I'm done with this part. I'm as far as I can go. Let me pan this up a little bit so you can see the whole thing. Now I need to start the line command again. Go back to the same starting place and draw the rest of it. 1.20. Here we've got an angle. My angle's distance is 1.50. Now again, we have the same thing that happened over on the other side. It tells me that it's 38 degrees, but it's 38 degrees in the west direction. So that would be 180 degrees minus 38 degrees would give me my angle here of 142. I've got another relative coordinate, so I don't have an angle here, but I have a relative coordinate, so I need the @ symbol. First the x, 0.325, it's in a positive direction, comma, 0.875 along the y. Next I have another angle, but this time my distance is 0.75. I'm going to press tab, and my angle is 15. So I've got this thing drawn out as much as I can. This line right here, we don't know the distance for. We're just going to snap it into place. Press enter, and I've drawn the little object. Now I'm going to do that same drawing, but I'm going to actually do it starting at the top of this part, and I'm going to work my way backwards. That way I can use one long continuous line to get all the way back to the beginning. I'll zoom out a little bit so I can just draw them side by side.